Welcome to today's episode of Print to Pixel, the podcast where we talk to marketing leaders and technologists about how omnichannel marketing is revolutionizing the way that direct mail and digital marketing work together. My name is Dennis Kelly. I'm the CEO of Postalytics, the leading direct mail automation platform that makes direct mail marketing as easy as email. I'm excited today to speak with Wendy Husman of Mal Warwick Donordigital.
Hello, thanks for having me.
It's great to have you, Wendy. Wendy is vice president at MWD, which is a direct response agency, advocacy, and marketing services firm focused on nonprofits. Wendy's responsible for digital fundraising strategy with a focus on multi channel integration for regional and national organizations. She's been a fundraiser for over 2 decades, and her favorite topics are digital messaging, monthly giving, and data. Her MWD clients have included KQED, the World Animal Protection and Student Conservation Association, and many other organizations doing fantastic progressive organizing. Wendy, welcome to Print to Pixel.
Thank you so much. It's a delight to be here, and I'm so excited to talk about fundraising, peer to peer texting, MWD, you name it. Thanks for having me.
Well, our audience is thrilled to gain a little bit of expertise from you today. And so excited to dig in. Um, and before we get too far in, though, we'd love to hear more about you. So you've been in the nonprofit sector for many years in development roles and more recently with MWD. Uh, so help us understand how you got here. Uh, some key moments, influences that have led you down this path in your career.
Great question. Sometimes I question how I got here as well, especially in the middle of year end fundraising time. I question all my life choices, but I can share a little bit about my origin story, which is that I went to Stanford University as an undergrad and majored in what was a very small discipline at the time, science, technology, and society, and became really interested in how people engage with technology and worked for a few corporations after graduating and quickly realized that I would rather do just about any job for a nonprofit than I would for a for profit company. And ended up going to graduate school at Tisch School of the Arts at New York University and very quickly realized there that modern dance was not a good career path for me. So I began interning with one of my professors and learned fundraising at first, interning with an avant garde puppet theater company called Great Small Works, and honed the ability to find mentors in my chosen field. So, one of my biggest pieces of advice for someone starting out in any field is to find the people who you can connect with and learn from and who are willing to just show you what they've learned and then also hone the ability to understand what works for you and what doesn't from what they've done. So I found a bunch of great mentors early in nonprofit and ended up working in many different types of fundraising for performing arts companies, ending up as a development director at a small ballet company in San Francisco, Alonzo King Lines Ballet, and then shifting into direct response fundraising, specifically in the environmental sector, before moving abroad, needing to kind of scrap everything for a year or so and learn how to be an independent contractor and consultant, and then move back to the States and join MWD 13 years ago. So at MWD, I've been extremely lucky to work with great colleagues and fantastic clients over the years and have worked up to being a vice president at the company with a focus in digital fundraising and a member of our leadership team.
That's great.
Yeah.
I have to say, we recorded a lot of episodes, and this is the first episode where there has been a key influence from an avant-garde puppet performance company. So you never know, right?
You
Like
never know.
what is the thing that is going to kick things off?
Right. And one of my other pieces of advice in general, or at least something that I hope is heartening to some people, is that when I was in nonprofit for a little under 10 years as a practitioner, I changed jobs a lot. And it's something as like a young Gen Xer was really frowned upon at the time, like spending 2 years in a job, moving companies, another 2 years moving companies. But as a consultant working for an agency, that breadth of experience has been really helpful. And I wish I could tell my younger self that it was serving me in the long run. So just something to think about. You never really know what experiences are going to be helpful in the end.
For sure, for sure. And, as an older Gen X, uh, it was definitely, beaten into my head as a young professional. Like, you don't want to bounce around too much. It sends the wrong
Yeah,
message. So,
yeah.
but the breadth of experience is definitely valuable. And now you've settled into this role. It seems um, at MWD, and you've been there 13 years. Did you say?
Yes, yes.
Amazing.
I
Wow, that's so
agree. I've
cool.
never done anything for this long. And I think it's because it's different every day. And we get to work with so many different organizations making a huge difference in the world. So
Yeah.
I'm as surprised as anyone, but I am never leaving this place. It's such a great company to work for.
Wow. You don't hear that every day.
I
That's
know.
great. So, now in your role as vice president at MWD in digital fundraising, you're starting to really drill into a particular area of expertise. And so I'd love to explore that a little bit for the audience. Wendy is really have starting to focus on what's known as peer-to-peer texting. I'm sure a lot of folks in the audience in the nonprofit sector have heard of it. Some may have implemented some programs, others may be considering it or trying to learn more about it. From what I've learned, it's a very fast growing channel for nonprofits. And one of the key benefits is that it really allows more of a real time two-way conversation uh, in that feels much more personal than a typical kind of mass texting platform, and as a result, can generate much higher engagement rate uh, from this channel because it is so personal.
Yeah.
Um, and so, Wendy, if you were speaking with an executive that is trying to get their head wrapped around this channel, um, how would you advise them to begin the process of strategizing and thinking about where it will fit and how to attack it?
Great question. And I can share a little bit about how MWD got involved as an early adopter of peer to peer texting because our philosophy as an organization is all about omni-channel marketing and fundraising, understanding how the different channels work together and how important different communication channels can be with constituents, whether or not they give in that channel. So I think when we talk about texting in particular, it's really important to remember that what we care about is donor LTV, not just independent ROI on a specific message or channel. And and so being able to bring in good donors to your organization, renew them, upgrade them, how to retain them over time and turn them into your mid level or legacy giving donors is what we really care about. And I think that a lot of folks, even on the agency side, tend to take a shorter term view of looking at the specific channel that they care about or they're an expert in and only direct gifts to the specific techniques or efforts they're working on instead of taking a big step back and looking at a years long view and retention rates and upgrading and etc. So MWD has always had this philosophy. It's why we founded Donor Digital, a digital fundraising arm in the 90s before, you know, anyone felt comfortable using a credit card to pay for anything on the internet, and why about 8 years ago we jumped into peer-to-peer texting. So, what I have to say to an executive about starting a texting program is that doing anything at all, unfortunately, is like a step ahead of where a lot of organizations still are. And if you don't have a texting program, unfortunately, at this point, like you are behind, you're not building as good of relationships with your donors as you could be, and also leaving money on the table. But what works in texting and what's important to think about in texting really is generally the same as what works in all direct response fundraising. You want to show your supporters that you know who they are, connect them with your mission, show them the impact of their support and what you're able to do in partnership with them. And like I just said, understand the interplay between channels, and especially that the channel someone gives in is not necessarily the channel or channels that motivated them to give or connected them to your mission in the first place. And therefore, we need to gauge the importance of texting holistically. Just like with any other channel, we fall into the trap of direct attribution. And that's something that will impact your feelings about texting more so than many other channels. So we really suggest having the ability to and being willing to take the time to look at the impact on constituent behavior rather than just like individual direct gifts to any one text or any of the other channels that typically don't have as many directly attributed gifts. And direct attribution is turning to a trap in direct mail as well now because there's so much indirect giving from DAFs and other methods where we know that the mail is playing the biggest role in converting those people, but it's not getting the credit anymore. So hopefully that's something that a higher level executive will be able to understand more easily now. But direct attribution is guiding us to make the wrong decisions.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that I think can often be a trap for executives or board members is thinking that we are our donors. Like something that drives a gut response in us, like we have to do this or we can never do this. That is not the best way to make decisions, especially about direct response. Like we need to pay attention to data and make decisions on data rather than assuming that we know best because we're a human in the world that receives texts. It's simply not true. So, being able to understand the right data to look at and being willing to be open to your gut reaction being wrong and try something is super important.
I completely agree. And I can't tell you, um, in the line of business that I'm in, how many times I have a conversation with an executive that says, "Oh, well, direct mail doesn't work. I throw my direct mail right in the
Yep.
garbage." And
We
then
are
you look
not
on
our
the LinkedIn
donors.
profile. You look at the LinkedIn profile, and it'll say data-driven marketer. You know.
Yeah.
Oh, good. So you're going to make a decision about a channel because of what you do.
Yep.
Uh,
Yep.
yes. So no, you're 100% right. And I really am glad that you brought that concept of direct attribution into this conversation because you're 100% right. The I think the often the larger and more sophisticated nonprofits that I talk to have much more sort of channel boundary in the way that they've organized
Yep.
and in their line of thinking and in their reporting and in their analysis.
Yep.
And it's really hard to break out of that. But, at the end of the day, omnichannel marketing is what works. Having the same message being told over and over again across different channels with the same positioning and the same messaging and the same core driving logic as to why this is valuable has to happen across multiple channels.
Yeah, you're
And
speaking
so
to my soul. I think that, like, for the most part, I feel very lucky to work with larger, well resourced organizations and fundraising teams because we really can try a lot. Like, they have the resources to try a lot more things, but at the same time, they tend to be much more siloed. And where that hits us often with texting is when different departments control the texting program, where like maybe the marketing team owns texting or the advocacy team owns texting, and the way that they choose to make decisions is just guided by very different metrics, and they lose opportunities as a result. So
absolutely.
yeah, I'm really picking up what you're putting down.
Excellent. Well, now we've established, okay, this is a valuable thing. Let's drill in. Tell us a story. Give us an example of how you and the team at MWD have helped a customer develop their P2P texting program.
Yep. So at MWD, we have a cross departmental team that manages texting for our clients, both strategically, implementation wise, and then in partnership with our analytics team, looking at metrics and performance and next steps. And that team, I think, is able to really think through more crucial philosophical questions and come up with better advice because we have representatives of the digital team as well as our telemarketing director, Kate Mucci, co-managing the team with me, and direct mail and telemarketing strategists on the team. So when we work with any client, whether they are what we describe as an integrated client working with MWD across digital and direct mail channels, or a single channel client, we will always bring texting strategy into the picture for them. So if they don't have a texting program, we'll give them information about how to start one and what that might look like, staff time wise, and both like revenue and expense wise. For current clients, whether we are helping implement their text program or not, we will help them budget for the coming year and come up with a communications calendar, keep them apprised of what's new, what's working, what we've tested, et cetera, in texting. But something that I really recommend every organization do, and we've been able to work with almost all of our MWD clients to do this, but I will share a little more about one specific client, Student Conservation Association, who we helped start their texting program from the ground up. So we worked with them to build up their peer-to-peer texting program. And their very most successful campaign is what I call ongoing monthly targeted texting. So it is not specifically a sustainer campaign. It is something that they launch every single month to tightly targeted audiences at a certain point in their giving relationship with Student Conservation Association. This will work for anyone. It really is like the lowest possible fruit in texting to go after when you first start your program is to identify specific people who really need to hear from you at that time. So I'll give you a few examples, and there are plenty more. One is brand new donors. So people who just gave to you for the very first time, you have their phone number. Within a month, just launch them a text welcoming them and thanking them. Don't ask them for something else. Just welcome them, ask them if they have any questions. They likely will, and they'll get into a back and forth with you, or you'll hear some really heartwarming stuff about how much they love you. So just it sets really good groundwork for the ongoing relationship over the years with them as a donor, as well as your rapport in the text channel specifically. We've also done some testing to show that launching a text like this to a new donor makes them respond better in the texting channel in the future. So even if the money were a concern, which with such a small audience, it really isn't, it pays for itself multifold really quickly. Another example is people who are about to lapse off. So members who are expiring in the next month, just giving them a heads up. Sometimes organizations will invite them to become a monthly donor or annual recurring donor at that time, or just reminding them, like, hey, did you know that you last gave almost a year ago? Are you able to renew your support? Likewise, recently lapsed donors, inviting them to come back, or sustainers who intended to make a gift last month, but their payment wasn't processed because of some sort of issue with expiration date, credit card payment processing issue of any kind. Just alerting them. Many people don't know, and they didn't want to lapse off of your monthly giving file. They just need to know that something needs to be fixed. So SEA implemented all of these and has seen great success along with most of our other clients.
That's awesome. And I think all those use cases, when you drill down into, a very specific situation like, recently lapsed donors or um, donors who had a problem with a credit card, transaction, that ability to have a message that is really on your personal device
Yep.
and is super targeted it's not a generic statement. It's like, hey, here's one thing you can do,
Yeah.
right?
And
To
even
get
if
that and to be able to take action and execute on that, I think is really powerful.
Yep, absolutely agree. And the other thing that that brings up is just the idea of segmentation and personalization in texting in general. Even when we're sending full file texts, it's important to make sure your donors know that you know them. And so we very rarely will recommend our clients send a text that doesn't distinguish a script between monthly donors versus one time donors, current donors versus lapsed donors. And often, if we include non donors, then understanding where they came from, like why they're on the text file and addressing that, in addition to the more typical personalization that you can do in texting around first name or last gift date or what have you.
Yeah.
So, that type of thing is what creates the rapport that makes peer to peer texting so valuable.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I could take that conversation, that's this little section that we just did, pick it up and drop it into the direct
Yep.
mail automation pitch
Yep.
that we have all day long as well,
That's
because
absolutely
that
true.
segmentation and that personalization is so important, to really let a donor know, hey, I care.
Yep.
I know you. I care about you. I recognize what you've done for our organization, and it means so much more when the time is taken to do that segmentation and that personalization.
Yep.
It is a massive increase in every measurable element of a campaign.
Yep, I absolutely agree with you. It
So
also ties into, in texting specifically, into deliverability issues, which hopefully is not something that we're running into as much with direct mail, but certainly is patterning itself off of what's happened in email fundraising, where the more authentic you are in your messaging, the more likely it is to get delivered because you're able to prove both to your constituents and to the mobile carriers, the people who actually are deciding whether to deliver your message or not, if you are a good player in the space. Like, are you bringing something positive into their ecosystem or not? So
right.
just remembering, the tenets of all direct response fundraising, of course, translated into the tactics that work for peer-to-peer texting. But being a good player in peer-to-peer texting is going to be connected to your deliverability as a sender. And that's something that's getting more and more important over the years. Like, we used to worry several years ago that peer-to-peer texting was just going to disappear as an option. Like, there was legislation, there was threats from the TCC, but what ended up happening is we got smooth sailing with official legal rules around what we could do in peer-to-peer texting. which thankfully means that we are allowed to text donors if we can get a phone number for them. They don't have to give it to us and they don't have to opt in. So that's not the only reason peer to peer texting is valuable, but it's flat out one of the most important elements of it as compared with mass blast texting.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what it means, though, is that when the government didn't do anything, the carriers took it upon themselves to regulate themselves essentially, or regulate senders, like decide what we would be allowed to do. And so now organizations go through a fairly strenuous process with the campaign registry to get what's called 10DLC registration. So it stands for 10-digit long code, but what it really means is that we all now need to prove who we are and that we are committing to being good players. And so it's getting more and more into a situation where individual organizations are going to be undelivered. And those, very similar to email, it's a black box how the carriers make those decisions. And they aren't making consistent decisions. So like T-Mobile and AT&T are making different choices about whether to deliver. And I just really recommend that we go back to the best practices of direct response fundraising. Show your donors you know who you are, build authentic connections based on people caring about your mission and your impact. And as much as possible, just remember that we need to be permission based marketers. Like if people don't want to hear from us in a channel, no questions asked, we stop messaging them in that channel.
Well, all of those things really resonate in several different ways for me. Um, you know, I would say first, the notion that there are um, some what sound like fairly complex requirements to get set up as an authentic and legitimate player is a good thing, right? In that, you
Yes.
know, you can, as somebody who wants to do the right thing in this channel, you can go through the time, work with a partner that has been through this, umpteen times like MWD, get yourself set up so that you're considered, a good player in
Yeah.
the peer-to-peer texting space. So that's, I think, super important
Yeah.
for folks out there to understand.
And
And then
frankly, if you
secondly,
are a good player, then it's going to be a breeze. Like if you have a privacy policy, if you have terms and conditions, like if you've thought through what you're willing to do with your donor audience, then you're going to be fine and registration is going to take a few days. And
yeah,
the texting platform you choose to work with in your agency, if you have one, can do it for you.
that's great.
Yeah.
And then
So it's a hurdle, but a good hurdle, like you said.
yeah. Well, but the other part really, and this is a good transition to the next topic, the fact that there can be deliverability issues really points to the fact that using an omni-channel approach to delivering your messages is a superior way of going about your marketing. And
Yeah.
and so, you know, since this is an omni-channel marketing podcast, how
Yeah.
do you and the team at MWD think about omni-channel and then specifically the role of direct mail in omni-channel and how can direct mail and peer-to-peer texting work together to deliver great results?
I love this question. So, first, I can just share a quick story about one of my clients, Sempervirens Fund. They protect old growth redwood forests. And they ran into an email deliverability issue last year on Giving Tuesday that ended up being okay because we had a robust texting program. So we had done a mobile append. And for many of their donors, even if they hadn't signed up for the texting list, even though the emails didn't go out to them on Giving Tuesday, some of them went out. It's a much more complicated conversation, but they got the text, and many of them ended up giving in direct response to the text instead, and we raised more year over year. So there really is a crucial interplay between channels, even just in the more logistical elements of things. in terms of the philosophical element, something that we are able to do at MWD thanks to our analytics department, but I believe all organizations should be doing, if for no other reason than just to prove to yourself that like the strategy is working, is a matchback report. So what we will often do after a big campaign is create a matrix of people who received direct mail, who received email, who received text, and then all the permutations and combinations of those things. And then instead of looking at those constituents' direct gifts by effort, we'll look at their giving over the course of the last week of the campaign, let's say. And we can see that with every additional channel you add, response rate goes up. So it's not going to always be directly to the channel you added, but they're going to be more likely to give in the mail or quote unquote organically on your website if they receive more emails, texts, what have you. And then to answer your specific question related to direct mail, another low hanging fruit technique that I always recommend is launching a text to everyone who received your direct mail piece. Everyone you have a textable number for who just received your appeal should receive a text as well. And most of them are not going to make a gift to that text. They are going to go back to their mail piece and mail you a check because they prefer to give that way, or they're going to allocate money from their DAF or what have you. But we see every time we do a matchback that text is a great way to remind people about that stack of mail that they haven't paid attention to yet, and we see higher response rates. So in addition to just doing a regular matchback report, I'd love to share some information about a lift test that I did for a big public media client a few months ago.
Love it. Yeah.
Because I think that there is a case to be made that matchbacks are just showing you that if someone's willing to give you their email and phone number, that they're already a better donor. So if their response rate is higher, it would have been anyway, right? If you do a lift test, what you're showing is that you could have emailed and or texted someone, but you chose not to, and the response rate still goes up. So for this particular public media client, we launched a matching gift text to 4,000 current and lapsed donors. And we did not launch the text to another 40,000 current and lapsed donors who have a textable number. So we could have texted them and chose not to. And then we looked at their performance, slicing and dicing in many different ways. So what we could see is that for every combination of messaging channels, so just got the text, just got text and email, got text, email, and direct mail, just got text and direct mail. You understand what I'm saying? For every combination, response rate goes up with the audience that received the text. For every possible slice of donor behavior, so recency, frequency, value, if we launch them a text, they gave more often. And then the other thing that was great to have the ability to do with this lift test is to analyze by age range. So we split them into generation. What I hear a lot is like, we'll text the millennials, but we're not going to text the boomers. But I can tell you that boomers love getting texts. The greatest generation loves getting texts. Everyone, it doesn't matter what generation you're looking at, they gave more if they received a text versus if they didn't. So if you are holding back because you think this is a channel that only works for a certain type of person, what we saw is no matter how we sliced it, launching the text helped with giving.
Well, it's so funny. It's ironic we're having this conversation. There's so many parallels between our worlds because, we hear the opposite. We hear
Exactly.
we're only going to mail to the boomers,
Right.
right? Because they're the only people that care about mail.
Yep.
But here's the thing about marketing. You need to market where other people are not marketing.
Yes. Yes.
Because you stand out.
And that's some of the advantage we've had in texting up to now, to be honest. But yeah, I absolutely hear you. Like if I get a letter, I am not going to give in direct response to that letter, but I'm going to go to your website and give.
Right.
Yeah, so
Exactly.
you really have to be analyzing your performance with your head on straight.
Well, the other thing that really popped in my mind when you mentioned the text message that is sent out upon receipt of the direct mail. Uh, now with direct mail automation platforms that are monitoring the U.S. Postal Service's barcode system, we're able to trigger out to systems such as text messaging platforms or email platforms and other things the day of delivery for each piece of mail
Yep,
in a massive campaign.
yep. I can
And,
see
and
how
so,
that would be an advantage as well.
yeah, so each recipient, no matter where they are in the country, it may be a range of a week or 10 days where the mail is actually delivered, depending upon, a lot of factors. But
Absolutely.
each individual can have a triggered message that goes out upon delivery.
Yep,
And we've seen for folks that have implemented systems like or programs like this, just big jumps in
yeah.
response when you get the timing
That's
right
great to
between.
hear. I love that.
Yeah, yeah.
I do have a couple other recommendations for what folks should be doing in their texting program
Cool.
if we have time. So, one thing that I wanted to just caution is that very similarly with other channels, it's important to not just launch fundraising texts. And I think, again, if you're just looking at immediate ROI cost benefit analysis of one text standing alone, you will decide not to launch a cultivation or stewardship or take action text. And you really need to take that step back and look at like what is going to make someone excited to receive texts from you and also continue building that bond with your donors, and make sure that the fundraising texts that you do send continue to work. So it's important to look at your communications calendar as a whole and ensure that you're sending a variety of messages, even though it might not look like you're getting ROI from it, but I promise you are. Um, Something else that I really think people should consider, beyond the knee jerk response to it is texting your mid level donors and texting your legacy society donors. These people care about you so deeply and they want to hear from you. And they often are going to build relationships via text with a gift officer that is not going to happen if you're calling people on the phone or just sending them mail or what have you.
Right.
So that's where we're seeing an amazing amount of success right now. And again, those are like really targeted one to one texts that are possible because of peer to peer texting, where Mass Blast really can't do it can't do the lift in the same way. And
Right.
then lastly, the other area where we're seeing a ton of success is with rapid response fundraising via text. That is a blanket statement in fundraising right now in our industry, in our world. But text is the fastest way to get messaging out. You need maybe 160 characters. So, what we really recommend is that organizations think through the ways that their issue might show up in the news and what you might say to your supporters when that happens and do whatever pre-work you can, like write some scripts and get them routed and approved, create an emergency response landing page, et cetera, et cetera. There may be things that need to get tweaked, but the speed is really what creates the success there because people's attention is just all over the place and there are so many things that are bad going on that when yours is front and center, you want to strike when the iron is hot. Um, I lastly have one piece of advice for organizations that is a little bit harder to explain, but different than what I think the prevailing recommended advice is for fundraising texts, which is that we really recommend when you launch a fundraising text that you do include the URL in the initial text. And the reason why text message platforms recommend that you don't do that is because of deliverability issues, right? You're much more likely to get flagged if you have a link in the initial text. However, if you have a solid reputation, like if you've been doing all the other things we talked about and you are a good player in your texting world, you're going to get delivered. So you're going to be much more likely to bring in gifts to the text if the URL is in the first text. So we do that almost every time. And we've seen a ton of success for MWD clients.
That's great. Amazing advice from somebody who has really uh, she's got so much great information about this new exciting channel, and the organization has been involved. Did you say for 8 years now in
Yeah. We
P2P?
jumped
So
in feet first right at the beginning.
yeah, so nonprofit audience, this is just gold that we have here for you guys. So
Oh, thank
um,
you.
and with that, there's more gold. Wendy is going to be presenting at the Bridge Conference this year at the end of July, early August. The title of her session is "Text and You Shall Receive," with another person named Evan Tai of the
That's
Trust for
right.
Public
Evan
Land.
Ty from Trust for Public Land.
Excellent. Give the audience a quick preview, just a little
Yeah.
tease. What are you guys going to be covering?
Great question. So, we'll be talking a little bit about just the basics of peer to peer texting, how it's different than Mass Blast, what the landscape is, etc. And then we'll talk more about some great testing results, different audiences to think about going out to, how to do matchbacks, how to really like gauge success and build out a year of a program and plan for how you'd like to speak with people in this channel. Lots of great stuff.
Awesome. Awesome. So if you are going to Bridge, make sure you hit up Wendy's session. If you're thinking about it, go. It's a great conference. The whole industry is going to be there. There's just so much information that you can gather and talk to vendors like Postalytics.
Yep.
So I hope everybody is going to go to Bridge that is in this industry, because I think it's the preeminent event in the nonprofit world. Finally, Wendy, if anybody in the audience wants to connect with you, to you know have you engage and talk about peer-to-peer texting, other digital fundraising efforts, when anyone wants to learn more about MWD, where can the audience find you?
Yeah, I love talking to people about fundraising, whether they are clients, prospective clients, or not. So, really welcome folks to email me, whusman@mwdagency.com. We always have a bunch of great resources on our website, www.mwdagency.com, especially in our blog. We keep it updated with the most recent results we're seeing in texting, direct mail, and otherwise. And I also, along with some of my colleagues on our texting team at MWD, created a Texting 101 course for N10 that anyone is able to take. So it's a self directed course on the Nonprofit Technology Education Network website. Really welcome everyone to take that class. It shares details about how to start up a program, how to budget for it, how to write scripts, how to create MMS designs, how to analyze your performance. And I have a 20% off discount code. So if folks want to sign up for it, use the code TMF20 and you'll get a little bit of money off.
How about that?
Yeah,
Wow.
name it
Awesome.
please.
Well, Wendy, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on today. I think we could probably go on all afternoon here, because we're synced up on so many different topics.
Agree.
Uh, and audience, please check out Wendy's work. Check out the work at wmdagency.com. And this deal on the Texting 101 program at the N10 website sounds awesome. And thank you, Wendy. We look forward to speaking with you again very soon.
Thank you so much.